Good morning. Welcome to the Droidcon Italy webinar. Hi, Marco. How are you?
Hi, I'm very fine. I'm a little bit excited.
Oh, good. That's a great start. My name's Lucy James. I'm one of the Droidcon Italy organizers, and I'm very happy to have here with me Marco Mazzaglia, video evangelist for Synesthesia, who is going to give us a great presentation today on Android and gaming. Marco, you ready?
Yes, I am. Okay.
Right. So this webinar is brought to you by Synesthesia. It is powered by AWS Amplify, our fantastic partner. Marco, have a brilliant webinar. We'll see you after for questions.
Okay, perfect. So, hello to everyone. I'm Marco Mazzaglia. So, for about 40 minutes, we're going to describe the meeting between the gaming and the Android platform. I'm the video game evangelist of Synesthesia, so I'm responsible for all projects that involve gaming, gamification, applied game. And I am the technical director of Academy. Academy is a unit of Synesthesia that is about learning and teaching to people, but in a special way. Teaching using video games. So the video game is a sort of experience that can be that can involve emotion in people. So after involving the emotion, the person can be more involved in the deep learning. So learning from books, learning the subject in some special way. This is my company, so Synesthesia, that you will know, and I'm also teacher at Politecnico di Torino, Polytechnic School of Torino. I'm teaching. I teach game design and gamification for people of Master of Science level in cinema and media. This logo are my previous company in the game industry. I work in the game industry since 2008. So starting from Milestone with racing game and up to Mixed Bag, an Italian indie game company. These are screenshots for my previous products. I made about, I suppose, 30 games, 30, belonging to different environments, from racing games to emotional experience and games like Last Day of June with Sonico. This is my last game. Secret Oops is a multiplayer game with some special features. So it's an AR game, multiplayer in local. So each person has each own device. Each person plays around a table. In order, the goal is to help to support Charles, this man with a big bird. To escape from the enemy situation, the castle, the enemy laboratory, and so on. The game won an Italian Video Game Award for Best Innovation Game this year in July. So, why we are here? The goal is to show a way to start the development of a mobile game, getting some advantage that offered by the Android platform. And we need to specify the target, because maybe you are an Android developer that want to consider to enter in the game industry, or maybe you are an Android developer that is already making games, and maybe you want to develop some short video game experiences for your non-game context, so for gamification or maybe some applied game for simulation or for some learning process. So why are you here? If you belong to those three profiles, maybe it could be okay. Focus, pay attention. No line of code will be written in this presentation because it's the webinar. It's a way to explore the meaning and the opportunity that can be created matching Android and the gaming world. So why starting considering mobile games? Because mobile game it's a product that can be cheap and small, and it can require a couple of months to become a product. Because sometimes for a meaningful product, game product for Android can be you need to have maybe a range from 3 months or maybe the infinity, because sometimes things again can be wrong for you, and maybe the development can last more than you expected. So maybe the first real idea is that a mobile game can be very short to produce, to develop. So it's better to start from a simple product. Rule 1 to make a good game is having a good game, having a good idea. But it's not enough, because rule 2 is marketing. Your idea, your game is one among other wonderful or awful products. So we need to hear your voice. We need to make actions in order to make some dissemination of your product, to spread the word of your product. Starting from the social, from the specialized websites and something like that. We need to do this, so we need also to focus on marketing, because developing game is tough. If you want to work and not having a hobby like making games. So if you want to focus your activity, and if you want to have a profitable action developing games, you need to know several aspects, because not only good games had good figures in selling copies. You can see Green Fandango, Psychonauts, Beyond Good and Evil, and so on. All good games, but when the game was released, they didn't get good figures as selling copies. For each student that came to me in the past to show his spectacular idea, maybe I can recognize the same pattern. So the student come to me, and so I have the idea of life. I'm very sure to get money from this idea. So yeah, I finished like Hello Games, my wonderful game, like No Man's Sky, and now I put the game in my digital store, in the Google Play. That's awesome, wonderful. We are going to sell a lot of copies, and then after a month, if you review the student, the interview is crying. So, lot of games after the release, even if are good game, they are good games. Maybe they sell few copies. Okay, so it could be disappointed. It could be not so good for your moral, but it happens. It happens. So we need to rethink your strategy, our strategy, because maybe your idea was good, but not too good. Or maybe your idea was belonging to an old idea. You didn't know, but it was an old idea. So we need to go back in time. Back in time, straight to retro games. And putting retro games in my Android platform to have the perfect recipe to start the creation of an idea, or maybe to also to get a mental environment that is able to recognize which ideas can be okay, or maybe which ideas that I can consider new, in fact, are very old ideas, are not so new. So maybe I hope that people can know how the game is very good, but I will be disappointed because maybe the idea is not too good and too new. So let's start with definition of retro gaming. Retro game is a 2-generation console old. So in 2020, a retro game is belonging to the 6th generation. So PlayStation 2, Microsoft Xbox, and Nintendo GameCube. We are on a transition. So because maybe this November, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S are going to be released. So the 7th generation PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 are on the edge to be considered retro gaming. So yeah. As you can see, you can find a lot of retro devices that you can try in physical or maybe in a different sort of way. Why we chose retro games? The pros and cons, because it's a very large amount of advantages. But also we can find a lot of constraints and weaknesses. At first, simpleness of controllers. So instead of having 300 analogs, 400 buttons, and 800 sensors, in the retro game, you have usually, if you consider the 8-bit generation, at minimum, one stick and one button. But with one stick and one button, thousands and thousands of games were designed. And the playability was focused on fun, sure, but fun on content. So, not a great focus on the graphics, because the hardware requirements were low. So the video game designed in the old times focused on playability, on game mechanics, maybe simple game mechanics, but with a lot of fun. Or maybe we focus also on content using the technology with the procedural generation of content. For instance, Lords of Midnight by Beyond Software had thousands of location in order to live the adventure. Or maybe also Midwinter, especially the episode number 2, Flames of Freedom, it was able to build an entire 3D world and a set of different characters and different adventures, mini quests, and so on, also using a procedural generation of the content. Just to be sure, maybe Flames of Freedom Midwinter 2 was available for Atari ST, Amiga, Commodore Amiga, and PC. Another key aspect is the short time per game, especially on 8-bit or arcade titles. An example, Impossible Mission from APX 1984, Danny Glover, Randy Glover, sorry, Danny Glover is an actor, Randy Glover. If you want to complete the game, if you are very good at the game can last 30 minutes. And also Shadowfire, maybe the first adventure that used the icons in a Commodore 64 environment. The game started with 100 minutes and stopped. After that, the game ended. Or maybe if you think about Prince of Persia, the entire adventure of Prince of Persia lasted 60 minutes. That is another screenshot of Shadowfire. As you can see, one of the 6 characters of your group, because the goal of Shadowfire is to save the Dr. Crixis from the evil Zoff in a spaceship full of enemies. We have also some cons, because hardware limitations sometimes can cut the experience. Usually, few games, in my opinion, can be saved starting from considering maybe Atari 2600, the VCS. Because if you see the game now, the game is bad at the gameplay side and also bad in graphical format. But you have to think that we were working with 128 bytes, additional RAM included in game cartridges like Pitfall 2, but it was only after the first release of games. And as you can see, the ROM were very small, 4 kilobyte, up to 64 kilobyte with the back switching. So and 6507 CPU with 1.19 megahertz of speed. So it's very, very, very slow. And also loading times especially for computers. We can remember the Commodore 64 with Ghostbuster. The Commodore 64 at the beginning was very failed in the loading times, both in the cassette and in the disk drive. Only the creation of super speed fast loader for tape version, like the turbo tape, or so a sort of compression made in real time, or maybe the cartridges that were able to work with the floppy disk drive were able to shorten the loading times. But not only it was not only a Commodore 64 weakness, because also PSP in 2006, maybe the first game released one of the first game released for PSP, WWE SmackDown versus Raw 2006. PSP was a a portable console, and starting from the insertion of the game up to until to the match that I can play, 6 minutes pass. So it's unaffordable for a portable console, because when I try to play, maybe the bus just arrived, so I have to stop playing. Also, Championship Manager is a football manager game that I like very much. When you started your season, the calculation of season was so complicated that Amiga spent about 1 hour and 30 minutes before starting to the real gameplay. At the beginning, I supposed when I was young that it was a game that is fault, that had a bug, because then, in my opinion, the game was stuck. It was not real. The game was only elaborating the data. But now I have the power to win versus these weaknesses. So I have the power in terms of hardware and in terms of speed of my device in a portable format. Also, I have the speed in loading time, okay, because the memories are very, very fast. So I can remove these defects, these weaknesses, and try to get a powerful situation to try and consider my Android device to store the old games. And this idea works because lot of old stuff are available now for our devices and our consoles. You have to think you have to think about Flashback Classics by Atari, or Sega Mega Drive Classics, starting from the seventh generation of console, because Sega Mega Drive Classics was a title released at first in 2000, I suppose 9 or 10, starting from PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And also a mini console, so another representation of console are sold now in order to give to the user a efficient and usable old experience. So you can get the mini Commodore 64, mini Mega Drive, PlayStation Classic, and something like that. And from a mobile point of view, why we need to choose Android in the match Apple versus Android? Android is the winner for a couple of reasons. The first reason, the Android device, okay, instead of considering the emulation feature on a standard PC or maybe solid device, hardware device, Android has the sensors. So fingerprint, accelerometer, gyroscope, proximity, compass, and something like that. So I have some inputs not only dependent on classic input, digital on the pad or buttons, or the analog way to give inputs with the analog stick. But I have also these inputs. And instead of considering Apple, I have the total freedom, okay, to develop and to try on the Android environment, but not also to try for me, because also Apple offer this kind of feature. But I can enable people to try all stuff that I can make available to others. So we started enabling the presence, enabling the opportunity to discover the whole console with the emulators. As you can see, there are some platform involved in that I can emulate on Android. And so this is why the perfect recipe is born. So retro games, having the retro games encyclopedia with on Android device. But now we can start to see the result. So the result is to have all the titles like this one, like Another World in the anniversary version. So you can move the character using the touch joystick and the one button only, because it was a title made for Amiga and Atari ST and PC. And also getting the concept of Outrun or of a simple racing game like Ridge Racer in a new recipe like Horizon Chase. Or maybe amplifying the concept, the idea of graphical adventure with an immediate input given to the player, like using the touchscreen in Thimbleweed Park. That is a game made by Ron Gilbert, the author of Maniac Mansion, Secret of Monkey Island, Day of the Tentacle, and so on. All the Lucasfilm series of graphical adventures. But we want to focus on two meaningful tries that can show the real advantages of Android instead of Apple, for instance. First try is about WarioWare Twist. Okay, WarioWare Twist is a very nice game made on Game Boy Advance. The game had a sort of augmented cartridge. So the cartridge was not only the game, but was contained also a sensor, a particular sensor, it's sort of a gyroscope. And the destructor was similar to other WarioWare games. So lot of mini game, speed, fast, very playable in the WarioWare salsa. But why it's important? It's so important, this kind of title. This is a screenshot. Okay, so some sort of mini games. As you can see, completely different genre in order to get to stimulate different play styles in the player. This game is so important for a little fact happened in the past. So the game was never released in Europe, in the European Union. Why? Not because Nintendo is a dictator or something like that, but the gyrosensor didn't follow the EU directive and so it was banned because it contained some sort of mercury. European players were not able to play, are not able to play now also officially the game. But you can use an Android phone to emulate this game. And this is the only way to play the game, because the other way that you can find playing the game on emulators on desktops or something like that are not similar to the full experience given by the Android phone. The emulator on Android phone maps the gyro sensors, and so the same experience that I had in the Game Boy Advance in the past can be the same now on the Android phone. Let's go to the second try. The second try is about the RetroArch platform. So the RetroArch platform that is started on PC and desktop, giving some sort of general platform emulation made from a set of cores that are enabling different platforms, now can be installed and tried on the Android devices. So suddenly the Android device made a complete transformation, enabling different way to play games in different system, in different OS system. So suddenly I have a encyclopedia, as I said before, available to my knowledge. So in order to understand and to experience, not only watching a gameplay video on YouTube, that is for maybe a game designer could be a complete different experience, viewing some sort of video, that it could be okay, but playing is, in my opinion, is another experience, because playing you can have more ideas that can born from a manual experience, a manual and solid experience. So just a couple of rules to survive, not in Zombieland, but in the Android game development, in my opinion, when I had to develop mobile games, especially Android games. So at first, for your knowledge, test retro games on Android emulators, maybe starting from RetroArch, or maybe getting some particular emulator like, for instance, V-Boy, that emulates fully emulates the Game Boy with sensors, not only gyroscope but also light sensor. For some couple of games of Hideo Kojima, very interesting. Evaluate them, fun, weaknesses, and marketing. Similar products made last year, which was the result, or something like that. Improve inputs and visual if you want to make a remake, and guide or merge ideas if you want to make a new game. Does it make sense to use sensors? So having the opportunity to move the phone, or to get some sort of touch different way of interaction can be okay. And the overall experience that you have written on paper makes sense when you try to prototype the idea, which can be your business plan or sustainability of the development. Maybe you want to release the version with a few levels, see if it works, and then you want to add some level or some other downloadable content in the future. And then after 6 points, you can start the design and the development on the field of your experience. Now we show a game that was able to move from the desktop experience to the Android platform in a very nice way. We see this example. So I have to switch the experience. So I stop screen. I share screen now, just to see the trailer that is able to show the game. Oh no, I'm wrong. Okay, start share screen, perfect. Chrome, share audio, perfect. Share. 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Oregon Trail. Retro zombie apocalypse action on your desktop and mobile devices. With a ragtag group of survivors. An expedition across the United States. Face the perils of the shambling horde. Bandits. Mother Nature. Your friends. Your own body. And fate itself. As the world crumbles around you, will you be able to cling to your humanity? Will you survive? Can you do what must be done? Find out in Oregon Trail.
But let's switching to the other to the presentation. So share screen. Okay. We perfect. Okay. Window of the application. Okay, that's perfect. Oregon Trail is inspired on a classic game like Oregon Trail. Oregon Trail was designed at first in 1970s, and it became in the 80s maybe the most played game in the elementary and in American schools. The game schema evolved during these years, so you can see maybe the first one of the first edition, and then in this in the second image in top right, this is the Apple II version. In the bottom left, you see the deluxe version on compact disc, adding arcade sequences and so on, and details, and then the Nintendo Wii version. So Oregon Trail it's a sort of a mix from a parody and a modern version, but with Apple II graphics, in order to celebrate the product in a zombie environment. We had an apocalypse, and so we need to escape and something like that. But if you play Oregon Trail on the desktop via Steam or something like that, you can have a nice experience, but limited on controls. The controls on with the mouse to aim is very tough, and the arcade sequences are good, but not so good. And the man with many hats, so the game studio, the indie game studio, involved in the development decided to change radically the controls using a different way in to make inputs and to control the arcade sequences. And so now the result is a more engaging game. So we maybe in the first release of mobile, they sold only in 2013 400,000 copies. So a game that sold very well, and also in the PlayStation 4 version, they released also a PlayStation 4 version for a game made in 2012. Okay, the PlayStation 4 version was released in a limited retail version a couple years ago, 2 years ago or something like that. So three key points: tough but immediate. So please do not introduce save restriction on a mobile game. So the mobile game can be used by casual players, so we need to tune the overall difficulty level, and we can and we need to evaluate different configurable types of controls for instance for arcade sequence, because Oregon Trail born like a strategy, a general resource game, and then we added arcade sequence in order to have a mixed experience, but it's very strategic at the beginning. So, long story short, just to summarize the end of this webinar. Freedom, why Android gaming makes sense. Freedom of development and censor, okay? With RetroArch, you have the infinity library of history of video games in order to use this game in your portable platform. And then when you try to think from desktop to mobile, you need to consider some key aspects, especially focused on difficulty and inputs. Let's do some homework. So some suggestion like good books to read in order to get the knowledge of games. So Replay and Ultimate History of Video Games, about the history of video games, about game design, because game design is not only an inspiration, it's a culture, it's a subject that needs to be studied. So the art of game design is a sort of Bible of game design. Also, Game Design Workshop introduces to you the entire game development process. So some theory about fun, about the psychology of fun in a theory of fun, and the psychology of failure as a fun factor in the art of failure. Some couple of websites that can be of interest, and tools and game engines to try in order to make in an easy way some prototypes or some mobile games. And if you go to this short link, you can access to the public document of Global Game Jam about their resources that show all kind of resources like game engine, music and art stuff, and something like that. So it is just because I give some link to commercial products. And just for curiosity, where the title is coming from, one of my favorite movie is Clerks, okay, a movie from 1993, I suppose. And please go and see the scene when the sentence is told, is proclaimed. So thank you. I hope you enjoy this webinar. So this is the short link in order to get the document of the presentation. So I hope you see physically at next Droidcon. So enjoy the document, and I have a late of 6 minutes, but I hope that you can stand.
Thank you very much, Marco. Thank you for your wonderful webinar. Thanks to our sponsor, HWS, and hope to see you all for the next webinar and for Droidcon Italy on 27 and 28 of November. Thank you again, Marco.
Perfect. See you. Ciao.
See you.
Ciao.
Bye, Marco.
Ciao.